your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, once again, another great Thursday over here at Good Morning Uganda. We're coming to you live from UBC. It's always a great pleasure, by the way, waking up with you as early as this time, 6:30. My name is Philomena Mastiko. Now, today, Thursday, while I was waking up, honestly, considering that it is Throwback Thursday and taking you back to the good old times, I remember the days that we had to wake up for morning prep. That was like one of my biggest challenges. And somebody was telling me, well, Philomena, it's like you were in preparations because you never knew at one point this would be your life. Well, clearly, I know there are people who can relate to what I'm saying right about now. And when I talk about people, I mean people that I am working with over here. That is, of course, Robert Kirabo and Mollen, Kenyena. Mollen, I'm very, very certain that you're probably like me. You used to be one of those people who just never, at any one point, loved being part of this whole, prep arrangement. But good morning.
Well, a very good morning to you, Philomena, and I want to say good morning to our viewers. Well, if you're talking about preps, I am one of those people who actually, I love reading in the night. However, this whole being together and you're all reading together, I don't like it. So me, I would actually extend. Have that kind of winter. So while people are going back after preps, that's when I would concentrate so much. And I remember my matron would actually wake up to tell me, hey, you have to sleep. You have to sleep because in the morning, it's just a few hours before morning. So I would concentrate most if others are sleeping, and for me, I just, continue reading.
Mollen.
I know.
I will say something much later on in regards to what you just said, but also to find out from you, Robert, good morning.
Good morning, Philo.
Would you say you're actually very comfortable with waking up as early as this, right from high school, by the way, or even primary?
Well, actually, I think it was around senior 3. I don't know what happened to me till today, that there are some hours I just lose sleep, no matter how early I went to bed. And the problem is the earlier I go to bed, the earlier I wake up. So I'm disturbed. Once it's 4, I just end up losing sleep. Even if it's not a working day, at least I go in the sitting room, begin praying or finding something to occupy me. So I have a natural alarm in my head, and that is something I've fought for a long time, that sometimes I just feel, no, let me sleep this time. But unfortunately, once it's 4, automatically, I'm up. And I think it began senior thirds I was preparing for. That is senior 4. Then it went on. Campus, I had a side job where I had to be very early still. So it's become a culture. Maybe as I continue aging, I'll get the grace to again have sleep. But for now, that has become my life.
I can only say that probably your body was putting itself in an automated system just to prepare you for what you're going to do, honestly. And for people who don't believe in destiny and fate, like Mollen over here, I mean, what can you say about this? Because I feel like the body, especially now for Robert, who has a system, the body was just aligning him to tell him, you know what, my friend, this right here is what you're going to be doing in a couple of years from now. So I don't know, Mollen, this for me, this is fate.
I don't think that at that age he actually knew he would be doing Good Morning Uganda, but thank your angels that, you had that kind of body system that helped you. But you see, also a funny thing with sleep is, the moment you get your body used to a certain kind of hour, it's like you've prepared your body in that kind of way. So whenever it reaches that time, the body will work by itself. Also, it's the same with sleeping time. When you reach that time of sleep and you've gotten used to, for example, maybe a 10, it will come at that time, and that's when you'll be sleeping. So I think that kind of helped, but I'd say this is fate and destiny for him.
But of course, when we were in school, we all had these dreams, yeah? When I grow up, read now. Teachers would, remember those teachers? It is time you wake up, you don't sleep. Later on, you'll have your time of going to work. Now, there were so much expectations, but now we are back to that time of prep. Though one time that thing embarrassed me, loss of sleep, because we went to visit some family friends as a family. So what happened, I lost sleep at around, I think, 3:30 something. So I said, let me go to the sitting room. Then I begin watching my international news. It's something I like so much. So I go to the sitting room, everyone is sleeping. I turn on the TV, small volume. Everyone, I think, noticed that there was someone in the sitting room. So they would come slightly, peep, then go back. The morning they asked, but do you have issues? Are you a night dancer? That you're in town, you can't run around. How dare you wake up 3:30, you tell us you want to watch news? But the truth is I had lost sleep. At home, I'll wake up, they hear doors banging because it's my house. Then I'm in the sitting room. I find something to occupy me. So sometimes it's embarrassing.
Well,
but you can change that routine.
Yes,
I mean,
you can actually break the routine because routines are kind of something like habits. They are habitual. So if you have the capability of breaking a habit, I do believe that you can actually break a routine as well. I mean, there is nothing really, really impossible.
Yeah, because you find that now, if he were to say, Robert, if you were to be in that kind of mode and you're like, okay, now I'm changing my routine. By 10, I'm in bed and I'm waking up maybe at 5. And you make it a point, even when you wake up at 4, you make it a point to go up to 5. With time, your body will get used, and that's when it will wake you up. So it will take you time. It could take
Unfortunately,
considerable amount
what
of time.
happens is, even when I try to stay in bed, you see, I'm all alert, and I just find myself that there's nothing I'm doing in bed, so I better go out. Sometimes I even wake up that early and prepare breakfast for the people at home. I try around occupying myself,
You heard Robert makes breakfast at home sometimes. Maybe the gentleman out there could pick a leaf from Robert.
Because you've woken up, really, you're watching TV. Sometimes even there isn't something that very interesting. Leave alone now that you have Russia and Ukraine, where once you're up early, there's that interesting thing. Then we had a time of the Brexit. I enjoyed that. Once you would wake up, we had the issue of the prince and princess, that's something to follow. So those are times, there are times you wake up and maybe you go to Christian channels and you just watch me. So you have to find you something, you read your Bible, then say, oh, I better prepare a breakfast for these people. So when they wake up, they're like, yeah, some are proud we have the best dad. Actually, it's lack of sleep.
Well, I will tell you one thing that right about now is making very many Ugandans lose their sleep. And those are the skyrocketing prices of several commodities. Now, if you remember, a few just months ago, it started, but at a very, very, small rate. And people were not making noise about it until somebody was like, but is someone going to actually come out and talk about these prices when, well, if you look at where we are right about now, the prices are really, 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 really disturbing. Well, we'll be getting into more details of this story and very many more other stories that are yet to come. The conversations, of course, are going to be surrounding that on this Thursday morning. Speaking of which, we are getting into some of the stories that did make it to the local scene and international scene as well, starting off with the local stories.
Yesterday, the NRM caucus met at Koro Independence Grounds, where His Excellency briefed them on the ongoing operations in the Democratic Republic of Congo. President Yoweri Museveni affirmed that government is committed to eliminating all forms of threats to Uganda. His assurance comes at a time the country
Speaking to journalists at Parliament, Butambala MP Mwanga Chivumbi, also Shadow Minister for Finance, Planning and Economic Development, wants government to drop the 2 above for the situation to stabilize. According to UBOS monthly consumer price index release for the month of February 2022, petrol and diesel had annual inflation of 34% and 26% respectively. Firewood too was reported by UBOS to have risen by 14% between February 2020 and 2022. Now the opposition in Parliament think this is the cause by URA digital stamping of commodities that started on 1st November 2021. The Prime Minister, Robina Nabanja, while speaking to journalists at the House yesterday, also said that the skyrocketing commodity prices are caused by the high demand for the raw materials at global markets. Finance Shadow Minister Mwanga Chivumbi also attributed the situation to fuel marking. Items like soap, sugar, wheat flour, rice, beans, salt, petrol and many other essentials have surged in prices beyond people's incomes and expectations over the past 3 months.
And moving on to education, government has clarified to the public about the issue of allowing the use of phones in schools, saying it is not yet approved. The State Minister for Higher Education, John Chrysostom Muyingo, said the ministry is still studying the use of phones in schools and will address this within the context of a larger framework of how to leverage ICT in facilitating learning in the education system.
In another story, Sudan President decorates Ambassador Chinove. Uganda's outgoing ambassador to Sudan, His Excellency James William Chinove, met and held discussions with His Excellency General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, President of the Transitional Council of the Republic of Sudan. In recognition of his efforts in promoting strong bilateral relations between Uganda and Sudan, Ambassador Chinove was decorated with the first-class Order of the Nile Medal by President al-Burhan. The decoration ceremony took place at Sudan's presidential palace in Khartoum, where Ambassador Chinove expressed his gratitude at this recognition and praised the efforts by Presidents al-Burhan and Yoweri Museveni in ensuring that the cordial relations between the two countries continue growing from strength to strength.
And away from home to across the borders, well, Russia-Ukraine war still is happening, and it's day 22, and more updates are still flowing in. With war entering the 4th week, of course, the U.S. increases support for Ukraine as diplomatic efforts to secure ceasefire continue. And Turkey's foreign minister will visit Ukraine after talks in Russia to push for a ceasefire. The UN Security Council is expected to vote on Friday on a Russian-drafted call for aid access and civilian protection in Ukraine. Human costs are mounting as the war now enters its 4th week. And Russian President Vladimir Putin has said his country will achieve its goals in Ukraine. And more than 3 million Ukrainians have been forced to flee the country, while 2 million others are internally displaced. Now, this is according to the United Nations. U.S. President Joe Biden has announced an additional $800 million in security assistance to Ukraine. The Kremlin has slammed Biden for calling Putin a war criminal, saying it's unacceptable and unforgivable rhetoric. President Joe Biden also calls Vladimir Putin a war criminal for the first time as the U.S. sends about $1 billion in weapons to Ukraine. In the besieged city of Mariupol, Russia has attacked a theater where civilians have been sheltering, the city's deputy mayor told the BBC. And between 1,000 and 1,200 people may have been inside, Cyril Orlov says. The number of casualties is currently unknown. In a virtual address to U.S. Congress, President Zelensky repeated his plea for a no-fly zone and called for more sanctions on Russia. Now, just as Americans start taking off their masks, the Omicron subvariant BA.2 is quickly spreading across the United States, making up nearly a quarter of new COVID-19 infections, according to health officials' estimates. BA.2 is about 30% more transmissible than Omicron, but it does not appear to be more severe. And despite the spread of the new subvariant, U.S. daily seizures and hospitalizations continue to drop while deaths plateau. We've been watching it closely, of course. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki told reporters on Monday, "We expect some fluctuation, especially at this relatively low level, and certainly that to increase." In the UK, meanwhile, cases were about 52% in the last week and hospitalizations were up 18%, almost 3 weeks after the country dropped the last remaining COVID-19 mandates. And in China, COVID infections are rising fast, with daily cases jumping about 14% in the last few days. China's less effective COVID vaccine and low levels of natural immunity, due in part to severe lockdowns, have complicated the country's efforts to stop the spread of BA.2. And back here on the African scene, hundreds of thousands of condoms, mosquito nets and tuberculosis drugs worth $100,000 are alleged to have disappeared from a warehouse operated by the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority. Now, they are believed to have been stolen and resold on the black market and to private chemists, according to the UN's Global Fund to fight HIV, TB and malaria. It also accuses the agency of drastically inflating the price of the medicine, with some drugs being sold for 100 times the correct cost. The government agency has not yet commented on the allegations. KEMSA made headlines in 2020 after revelations of fraud over the procurement of COVID-19 medical supplies. Tenders worth $78 million were said to have been irregularly given to politically connected individuals and businesses. This prompted President Uhuru Kenyatta to disband its board and top management. Now, the UN Global Fund, which has disbursed more than $1.4 million to Kenya in the last 2 decades, has recommended further investigation of KEMSA over the lost medicines.
Climate and weather-related disasters surged 5-fold over 50 years, but early warnings save lives, according to the WMO report. Climate change and increasingly extreme weather events have caused the surge in natural disasters over the past 50 years, disproportionately impacting poorer countries. The World Meteorological Organization and UN Office for Disaster Risk Management has said on Wednesday. According to the agencies, Atlas of Mortality and Economic Losses from Weather, Climate and Water Extremes from 1970 to 2019, these natural hazards accounted for 50% of all disasters, 45% of all reported death, and 74% of all reported economic losses. There were more than 111,000 reported disasters attributed to these hazards globally, with just over 2 million deaths and worth $3.64 trillion in losses. More than 91% of the deaths occurred in developing countries, but the news is far from all bad, thanks to improved early warning systems and disaster management. The number of deaths decreased almost threefold between 1970 and 2019, falling from 50,000 in the 1970s to less than 20,000 in the 2010s, the report explains. Economic losses are amounting as exposure increases, but behind the stark statistics lies a message of hope. Improved multi-hazard early warning systems have led to a significant reduction in mortality. Now, quite simply, we are better than ever before at saving lives, said WMO Secretary General Pateli Talas.
Oh, well, I will tell you one thing for sure, though, about that Kenyan story where we quite find a number of boxes of medicine missing and even condoms. I mean, there is quite a big question over there. Who is doing this? And yes, even if the investigations are going to be carried out, well, I saw people react to this story over social media and they thought, well, they stole what they stole, but we hope they actually do what they're supposed to be doing. The only problem is that the prices at which people are going to access, these medicines and the condoms is going to be appalling, probably could cause a problem. What do you think, Robert? I saw you nodding your head and you were in total disbelief and there was quite some disappointment.
You see, if there is a fund that has suffered,
yes,
it is that fund. Here in Uganda, we once had issues. Remember?
Yes.
With the same fund where medicines, monies were stolen. Kenya, it is still the same. So to me, I just look at this continent, Africa, and I wonder and I shed tears because we get things to be given out free of charge and then they end up being sold on the black market. And also, these donations we get, these are high taxes from the people in these countries that are sending us these donations. You know, they tax them heavily just to come and save, help out. Of course, I know there are other benefits that come along from the giver as well, but still they're looking at these poor people on this poor continent that need help. And guess those with tall fingers just grab. And at the end of the day, little is done to set precedents so that such acts do not happen again. Oh, Mother Africa.
Well, we hope that they can get to the bottom of this with the investigations and people should be brought to book, whoever is responsible for this. But also away from that, Roberts, I know you have some good news for us, the usual morning gospel that you have to spread right before we get into the conversation or the topic that we'll be talking about in the poll question, where we, of course, expect you to be part of it and give us some of your feedback. Robert.
Well, I'm holding these two darlings. Why I call them darlings, reason is that they care about your health. They don't want you to fall sick. They're not treatment, but all they do is they boost your immune system. These are darlings because they'll keep you up. They'll ensure that you don't fall sick regularly. That is, hallelujah, Jinga tea. Now we're in a time when there's so much. Cough and flu have already almost become a daily meal in many homes. When you get there, quack, quack, quack. People with flus and all that. And we have this one. This for people who consume, that is our PEC bottle, and you have issues waking up, you know, you're feeling funny. This does good when it comes to hangover. So I just 1,500. Just get any of these drinks because prevention is better than cure. And of course, we all know, just move to any clinic. Treatment is becoming very, very expensive. That is why day by day people are looking at prevention and now local herbs, herbal medicine, because treatment has become very expensive, most of the conventional treatment.
Oh, well, that's quite interesting. Now, delving into the poll question this morning. Now, we know that the NSSF midterm access of funds, well, has been going on. The application did start not so long ago. And of course, not everyone can access these benefits. Terms and conditions, as they say, apply. Now, today, it's going to be paying out about 50 billion Ugandan shillings to the people who applied and were successful. Of course, there were complaints coming in from a set of people where they're saying the queues were long, and others, even after going through the queues, they were actually told, well, you don't qualify to access these funds. Well, this morning, we want to find out if you are one of the people that qualifies to get this, or you're going to be part of the people that are going to get quite a share from this 50 billion Ugandan shillings. What has your experience been like? Of course, go ahead and share your experience on our social media, Twitter. The hashtag is UBCGMU. We want to know, do you think that this is something that can go on continuously? What has been the setting like? What has been the environment like? The procedure, how hard was was it for you? How easy was it for you? Generally, your experience is what we are looking for right now. And yes, you know, sometimes the feedback is important. So if NSSF gets to see quite some of this feedback, probably they can improve to make sure that the process is done seamlessly without wasting anybody's time, but also driving the point home. Well, we're going in for that song that is definitely going to take us down the memory lane. This is a Throwback Thursday, and of course we are hoping that it will get you on the road, it will get you into the system or the mood of doing what you're supposed to be executing today. When we get back, we'll be having quite a discussion over an issue that has caused an uproar in the public and also among us legislators, and that is the high commodity prices that are driving people crazy. Of course, that will be on the Good Morning Uganda newsreel, myself and Robert, and of course taking you to the road. And well, Mollen will also be coming in with some of the climate and weather updates. Much later on, the GMU agenda will also be following through, and updates from the sports arena. Remember, we are streaming live on YouTube, so you have no excuses whatsoever to miss out on this information. You need that information. It is a necessity. Good Morning Uganda will return shortly.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC, brought to you by was brought to you by
Just use MTN to make calls, send SMS, load airtime, buy bundles, or pay for MTN subscription services.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Are your children ready to learn? Schools are open. As parents and guardians, it is your duty to ensure that your children go back to school. COVID-19 prevention measures have been put in place to keep students safe as they go back to school. Not only do teachers prioritize everyone's health, including their own, but they discourage violence among students. They also ensure that students follow SOPs. Any concerns are reported to a school administrator or senior woman or man teacher for correction and further guidance. Dear parents and guardians, you too must play your role. Ensure your children always maintain a 2-meter distance from others, avoid crowded places, regularly wash their hands with soap and water, and wear a washed and clean face mask that covers their mouths and noses. Please keep your children at home if they're feeling sick, and take note. In our effort to keep students safe, there are no visitation days or any other school visits allowed. Let's share knowledge, not COVID-19. This message is supported by the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education and Sports, and UNICEF. Stay safe.
There have always been hard times, but these days are harder than most. Everyone is hurting. Everyone needs help. But some among us are asking the question, what if we didn't have to go through life's hardest moments alone? What if we were in it together? And just by asking that question, he changed my son's life. He created an online crowdfunding platform for Ugandans to help raise money for each other.
Thank you, Nixon, for helping me.
This is a story of a regular Ugandan just like you.
who harness the power of technology to provide a solution for us. How about you tell us your story? UG needs more of you. To share your story, visit airtel.co.ug/UG needs more of you or call or SMS 162. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Three minutes after the hour of 7 a.m. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda News Reel. My name is Philomena Mastiko on the 17th day of March 2022. Of course, I am joined by Robert Nyonyintono. Kirabo, well, we'll be talking quite about some topics or something that has, driven the rest of the country crazy. But also, before we start off, really sad news coming in. Over 30 students of Fort Portal Senior Secondary School are alleged to have sustained severe injuries in an accident that happened last evening. Now, of course, according to the police in the area, they say that these students were returning from a football match at Uganda Technical College in Kichwamba, and the accident happened at around 7 p.m. It's really, really sad and unfortunate. Of course, we'll be giving you more details on this story as they continue coming to light. Well, getting back to the topic this morning now, we know that the prices of commodities in the country have been soaring really at a very, very steady rate. I mean, the essential commodities, I'm talking about cooking oil, I'm talking about detergent, I'm talking about washing soap, I'm talking, all these things that we use every day. I could say the basics, Robert. Yeah, the things we use every single day that you feel you cannot survive. Now, prices have really made a steady increase. You find that a bar of soap that was at about 4,700 Ugandan shillings right about now in some areas, in some retail shops, you'll find it at 8,000 Ugandan shillings. Even some places, it's really crazy. It has gone as far as 10,000 Ugandan shillings. A liter of oil that was at about 5,000 or maybe 4,500, right now you find it at 10,000, 11,000 Ugandan shillings. Now, because of this, the government of Uganda has come quite under a lot of pressure, from several sects of people, the public, opposition legislators, because they believe they have the power to make sure they stabilize these prices, because at the end of the day, they are affecting the economy. But the question right about now that we would want to address, does actually the government of Uganda have the potent to be able to put this issue at hand? Because we've had responses from some government legislators, even the president himself, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, last week actually came out to say that, look, the prices are the way they are because of the Ukraine-Russian war that is happening right about now. It has had a trickle effect, not only just in Uganda, but even in very many other countries. Well, also the Prime Minister, Honorable Robin Anabanja, actually said Uganda opened at a time when most of other economies were also opening. So there is an overwhelming demand of some of these raw materials from the people who give us some of these raw materials. So yes, you will expect the prices to be high. But Robert, I just really want to know, before we even delve right into some of the statistics that have come in from UBOS, URA and all that, and even looking at the solutions that have been provided, that would be solutions that have been provided by some of these opposition members and all these other civil societies, does Uganda have the capacity to actually regulate these prices, or it's actually beyond us? These are factors that we can't, they're beyond our power. We cannot do nothing about it.
Well, in my opinion, I want to tell you that there isn't much that our government can do at such a time. It can slightly, but not much. What are my reasons? When we liberalized our economy, and it is all about demand and supply that will determine the cost of items.
Yes.
I want to begin with the Prime Minister. Many would say sugar is manufactured here. Soap, these are things that are done here. But then you'll find that there are raw materials like chemicals in making soap, where these are not manufactured here. You're importing them.
Yes.
And if we're importing them, because of petroleum products and all that, we're importing them, there's huge demand now. There's also scarcity because of, if one factors in the Ukrainian war that is happening right now, then at that level, what would be done would be, one, government reduces taxes so that the person manufacturing this, what URA would have charged this person,
yes,
it is less. And now many people fronting this assumably think that this is going to be reflected to the final consumer.
Yes.
Yet government has no law to directly dictate prices. Now, what many I saw the opposition in parliament, I think it was Butambala MP, Muwanga Chivumbi,
yes,
saying they can reduce stamp duty, oil, this and all that.
Yes, on the essential commodities.
Even if government, unless those very members of parliament look at this crisis and come up with a law that can empower government to dictate prices. But in this liberal economy right now, we've seen government cut taxation on certain things. When we were told that, okay, because of COVID, we had fuel prices that shot up. You remember that?
Yes.
COVID tests at Busia, rubber border, the truck. What happened then? That was dealt with. The rate of fuel is now at 5,000, 5,400, 5,000. In some places, some remote places, you can even still get at 6,000. So government will lose that tax.
Yes.
Because it will reduce that tax. But actually, the retail person, the person at the factory, will not reduce the cost because there is demand.
Yes.
And what is going to happen? The government will lose that tax. Maybe that it would collect and provide medicines. Maybe it would collect and work on a few roads here and there, service our debt. But at the end of the day, to you, the consumer, this is not going to be reflected because there is no direct law. Government can only discuss. Let me give you an example. When children were going back to school, the Ministry of Education and Sports came up, circulars and all that. But this is a person who began their school. They pay tax to you. They pay licenses. You have no authority. You have no law where you can come and say, Robert Kirabo Secondary, whatever school, school fees should not exceed 1.7
yes,
for pre-primary. You don't have that. I'll tell you, for me, as long as I have students come to my school, those that can't afford, let them go to another school. Now we are talking of basic commodities.
Yes.
But we lack a law where government can come in, a clear consumer protection law against exploitation in terms of prices. We don't have that as a country. That is why, for me, I'm not in for the taxation.
Yes.
What I could be in, but still it is not legally binding,
yes,
would be now that government gets money, gives to these companies. Then maybe there is an MOU. For example, soap, let me mention one company
yes,
that is Mukwano. Ask them, what really do you need? What is the problem? How can we come in? But also that, where we have holding, we have crafty Ugandans and some of them being in this very government.
yes,
You know what I'm saying? That the people we are running to, some of them may be part of the problem, yet we think they can come and assist. In Uganda, there's what we call holding.
yes. Very many businessmen will actually hold these products and they
that
wait
this
until
person will
scarcity
go
kicks in.
and book in a factory. Say, okay, how much are you producing? This. Then, because people have money, people in Uganda, some have money, you don't know even where they get it. So they will buy in bulk. They will stock. You go to the factory and they will tell you, well, for us we produce each bar of soap leaves this factory at maybe 2,000. How is it getting to 8,000? This person buys, then will put somewhere. People will be told, soap is in this store, and they'll come there. So I don't want to think that there's so much government can do, more so when you believe if it reduces taxes, that it will automatically trickle down to us.
Now, there is also an argument that has been fronted that because of government surrendering administration of some of the key sectors to the private players, where most of these people are actually exaggerating these prices. Now, this argument was coming in from quite the opposition party, Democratic Party, and they wanted, actually, they were asking for government to, you know, enact a price control act, and they believe that this will be able to regulate certain prices. You cannot go beyond a certain price for certain commodities. I don't know the efficacy of this, because I've also seen some African countries do this. I know Nigeria has this act in place because at some point, most of these business people, the vendors, everybody was taking advantage of the consumers, and the prices were really, really overwhelming and disturbing. Is this something that could actually work out for us here as Uganda, Uganda as an economy?
In the beginning, I told you that unless these members of parliament I see on TV, I hear on radio,
yes,
lamenting, criticizing government, reasonable governments could do this, that is instead of wasting time.
They shouldn't.
Instead of disturbing Ugandans, thinking that government is not caring about them, we elect them. Their #1 role is setting up laws. Let them go to parliament, come up with a law that can empower government. Because you see, government of Uganda works within the confines of the law.
Yes.
And people always challenge you. So if you have a law, then there's that possibility. But also you must understand how are you going to see the light of day? Because, Philo, there is so much that our government surrendered. Government doesn't do business. I don't know, we don't have a factory that manufactures sugar. Yes. Maybe that is entirely a government factory. You don't have a factory that manufactures soap. So this may find it hard to see the light of day. More so when we know that many people that are decision making end up also at the same time having conflict of interest, because a law would be the solution right now. But do you see it seeing the light of a day in a country like Uganda, where many of these people are self-made? They are self-made. They have come up. So they'll ask, under which terms and conditions do you come to regulate us? Then that is when you're going to see issues. Okay, if you're regulating soap, regulate that, regulate this. I hardly see that seeing the light of day.
Wow. Well, we are yet to also find out from that. Well, the morning poll question is running, by the way, and that is what should be done to regulate the escalating commodity prices. What should be done to regulate the escalating prices of commodities? The hashtag is UBCGMU, and of course you can send us an SMS text or even a WhatsApp message on 0709602592. Now, Robert, according to the statistics that came out last week from Uganda Bureau of Statistics, they said because of the increase of some of these prices and commodities over the last 12 months, ending actually February, the inflation of Uganda rose up to 3.2%, up from 2.7%, of course, that was registered in January. Now, you should also remember that in the last couple of years, we've been having COVID, we've been having an inactive economy. Now, when they talk about the taxes, because still I saw Forum for Democratic Change say, well, we need to cut down the taxes, especially on these essential commodities. We are forgetting that Uganda Revenue Authority, the body that is in charge of collecting these taxes, is already below its target by over $1+ trillion. Okay, now this is because there was an inactive economy. Even then, when we were during the COVID time, the government was investing money in an economy that wasn't fully efficient. I mean, we saw what happened. So really, could this be a good idea for us as a country? We're already struggling to get taxes. We are already below our target. Uganda Revenue Authority came out with these statistics and they were not looking good. So, as cutting down the taxes, some of the sources from which government can get money, is that really a good idea right about now? Because I know there are parties that are being affected, the consumer is being affected, the business people are being affected, but even the government is being affected.
First, I want to state this categorically clear to all Ugandans, more so members of parliament in the opposition, that cutting or reducing taxes on essential commodities is no guarantee that the prices are going to reduce. I want to emphasize this.
Yes.
Cutting or removing taxes is no guarantee that prices of basic commodities are going to reduce, because you don't have proper enforcement methods. You don't have a binding law to that. You cannot accuse me when you come to my retail shop and tell me that government removed tax on soap. Therefore, you must sell that bar of soap at 3,500. I'll tell you, go to the next shop. So what happens? Government is going to lose tax. And we use tax for basic services. Yet the intention is not going to be realized.
Yes.
That is what I want to emphasize and tell Ugandans. Let's not be woodwinked that when government reduces this, so automatically they are going to be a trickle-down effect. It is not going to be there. We have crafty businessmen. We went into a liberal economy where factors of demand and supply determine the prices of commodities. So at no level should we think that this is a solution. My solution would be, and you see sometimes President Museveni does certain things and we do not understand or give them the due diligence.
Yes.
There was a time when this government fronted what we call cottage industries. People were being taught how to make soap.
Yes.
Remember? Groups of women, soap. And today when you move around, you would see many people having this liquid soap. Even people are taught bar soap. So as long as we still have kid-dominant industries, and we have one sole or two providers, this we may not be able to fight because they will set their prices. I know people today go to countries like India, where the cottage industry, almost every home, there's some industry. These basics here, you see. I attended one time a workshop where they would make sugar either at family level or a few homes around there, soap, you know. So some of these things, unless we have substitutes or we have alternative ways, but as long as there's still monopoly of the factories that are doing this, they will take us to levels they want us to pay.
But we have actually the resources to make sure that we carry out that cottage industry system and continuously, because it did happen at one point. I don't know if it's still happening, but I mean, do we have the resources that can enable the continuity of such a program or such an arrangement?
What happens is government can set up methods of empowering small groups to access some of these things. Government will not directly be engaging in business because also someone can go to court and say, you know, we are doing this, government is doing this, you know, yet this is the economy we chose to go. We are paying taxes, yet government is giving at a lower price. But what can happen? You know, COVID taught us a few things.
Oh, yes.
Where we had times when people would fall sick and run outside of this country. There's a time when no plane was leaving Entebbe Airport. I remember one of the prominent VIPs of this country had a very major surgery done here in Uganda, and he survived. So what we've gone through during COVID, we must now look at sustainable alternatives. How do you ensure that at least, yes, industries have come, but we have challenges that they still determine prices. So let's improve these cottage industries. How do you empower various groups? Today, under Skilling the Boy Child, it is a presidential initiative. Of course, there's also Skilling the Girl Child. There's so much we used to import. There's so much that we had a dominance here in Uganda.
Yes.
But there you go to Katwe. Because there are so many groups doing the same thing, so many people doing the same thing, automatically prices would slightly go down because these will reduce levels of profit. You get it?
Yes.
If, for example, Philo, you manufacture soap at your place, however small it is. At UBC, you have about 3-4 staff that you know, as they are coming to work in their car, there's some bar of soap. They won't have the same cost. Then another is manufacturing something else. At the end of the day, UNBS can, because what UNBS doesn't fight local production.
Yes.
It certifies. Tell you, okay, these are the basic minimal standards. For a bar of soap, this and this is what we need. So when we have these many in the country, government then can say, okay, as we've given youth empowership, we've come up with various programs
and projects where people are assisted.
are assisted, then we can walk that lane. But as long as we still think that we can depend on the few, this monopoly here, we'll have all sorts of stories. And no one will have ways of saying, no, you're wrong. And one will tell you, yes. For me, where I buy my raw materials, this is the cost.
Yes.
And therefore, when I bring home, this must be reflected.
Because they know they are the sole distributors of some of these raw materials, and you don't have any other alternative or even plan B, so you have by all means to make sure you get from there. But now I also believe that this opens our eyes as Uganda as a country, maybe because we didn't have a contingency plan, because all these stretches all the way from COVID-19, the 2 years, it really affected us, Uganda as an economy, but even very many other countries. Now, what lessons do we actually take in from here? And what would ideally be the contingency plan if anything of the sort happens again? Because it's unpredictable. Nobody saw COVID-19 coming. And when it came, it really made a statement. It made a point. So what lessons do we take, especially if we are looking at stabilizing the economy of Uganda? Because we cannot keep dwelling around this. We can't keep,